Good morning, this is Pauline with Talking News for Friday the 11th of May.
And this is Mike.
And we begin with the society news. On Monday, Laura will be attending the Aspire Ride drop-in session, which is held at Aspire Ride, Dover Street Ride between 10 and 12 noon on Monday the 14th of May. She will have information about the society, the clubs and activities available, as well as demonstrations of some low vision aids available. All are welcome to come along and say hello.
And on Tuesday, we have Laura will be attending the Our Place drop-in session, which is held at the West Wight Sports and Community Centre in Mower Place in Freshwater between 10 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. on Tuesday the 15th of May. She will have information about the society, the clubs and activities available, as well as demonstrations of some low vision aids available. Come along and say hello and enjoy a free tea or coffee. The dolphins are swimming this Tuesday, the 15th of May, in Ryde at the waterside pool. The pool is closed to the public whilst the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the dolphins, please call the society first to notify us of your swimming ability.
Wednesday. The weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this Wednesday, the 16th of May. The coffee mornings are not just for blind and partially sighted people. Anybody can come along and have a cup of coffee or tea, as well as a piece of cake. We will also be holding the low vision drop-in between 10 and 12 noon on Wednesday, the 16th of May. This is a weekly event to allow you to view and try out the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for an appointment.
On Thursday, the Thursday Social Group are meeting on Thursday the 17th of May at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 a.m. until 2 p.m. You can knit or just have a chat. Then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics.
And in any other news, Dress for Less will be closed on Wednesdays for the time being, whilst new volunteers are being trained. We apologise for any inconvenience. Up-to-date information regarding opening times can be found on our website and our Facebook page.
A very successful quiz was held on the 4th of May at New Close Cricket Club in aid of Sight for Wight. £316 was raised, which is a brilliant amount. Thanks to Tracy and Pete, the organisers of the quiz, Roy Perry for nominating our charity, and to all who attended and supported the event.
Ryde Opticians and Hearing Care held an official open day on the 4th of May, to which Laura Jasper was invited to attend. They are a new independent opticians in Union Street, Ryde, and have chosen to support Sight for Wight. So far they have raised almost £200 since the beginning of March through donations and the proceeds from the raffle at the opening day. Many thanks to Rosemary and all her staff for their support for Sight for Wight.
Sight for Wight will be attending Riverfest at the Quay in Newport on Saturday the 19th of May, 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. Riverfest is a celebration of the heritage, community, businesses and wildlife associated with the historic river. It is a fun family event organised by the Footprint Trust. The event is free to the public with activities, entertainment and food. We will be there with our sunglasses, pen torches and key ring lights, as well as promoting Sight for Wight and the services we offer.
Local volunteers from the Guide Dogs charity will be visiting a number of venues over the next few months, talking about the work of the charity and how you can be involved. They will be at Sandown Library on the 23rd of June, Ryde Library on the 21st of July and Ventnor Library on the 18th of August. All the library venue times will be 10:30 until 2:30 p.m. You can also find them at Riverfest on Newport Quay on the 19th of May, 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. and the Isle of Wight Community Club Open Day at Park Road in Cowes on August the 27th from 12 noon onwards.
Do you enjoy the activities and facilities provided by Sight for Wight? Perhaps you've recently attended an activity or event and would like to wax lyrical about it. If so, then Chris Kane would like to hear from you. As part of our promoting well-being and supporting services and activities, we would like to hear your positive feedback, which will be part of a video promoting Sight for Wight. If you have a story you would like to enthuse about and don't mind being recorded on video, then please contact Chris Kane on 52205 or email admin@iwsb.org.uk.
This news is about the Sky Television revamp of its TV guide. On the morning of the 1st of May, Sky undertook a major revamp of its TV guide, which means many channels were assigned new channel numbers. Sky users do not need to rescan or retune. Once the new channel numbers are live, your box will automatically adjust. Your recordings and series links won't be affected, according to Sky. There's also more information on Sky Channel 100.
Changes are being made to the way some channels are broadcast on Freeview. You may need to retune your TV equipment to continue watching programmes when these take place in your area. If you need help with this, or retuning doesn't restore your channels, see below or call the Freeview advice line free on 0808 100 0288. You may be eligible for free in-home support, including aerial work if needed.
And now for the scaffolding news. There's a list of known footway obstructions for works, including scaffolding or hoarding. We are unable to include end dates, as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. Also included are tables and chairs permits that have been issued in the past week. In the Bay and Ventnor area, there is currently scaffolding at the Carnival Shop, 79 High Street, Sandown, Wight City, Culver Parade, Sandown, Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown, 3 Downs View, Sandown, up on Perone Way, 64 High Street, Shanklin, All Seasons, 6 Regent Street, Shanklin, Shanklin Rock Shop, 91 to 93 High Street, Shanklin, 27 to 29 High Street, Shanklin, 40 Little Stairs Road, Shanklin, corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor, 1 Boniface Road, Ventnor, also in Trinity Road, and 22 Spring Hill, Ventnor. There are currently hoardings at Wight City, Culver Parade, Sandown, Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown. There are currently skips at 78 Whitecross Avenue, Shanklin, and 6 Esplanade, Shanklin.
In the Cowes area, there is currently scaffolding at the Royal London Yacht Club, the Parade at Cowes, 7 Shooters Hill, Cowes. There are currently hoardings at 93 High Street, Cowes. And currently skips are at 42 St Andrews Street, Cowes. There is currently a mobile crane on the highway at Solent Shores, Prince's Esplanade in Gurnard. New scaffolding is due up at Totty's Fish and Chips, High Street, Cowes, from the 26th of March, and they're awaiting new dates. Sainsbury's, 129 and 130 High Street, Cowes, from the 29th of May. New skips are due at 18 The Green, Cowes, in the service lane outside the property on the 21st of May.
And in the Newport area, there is currently scaffolding at Bryston Viaduct, Military Road, Bryston, 18 Lugley Street, Newport, The Waverley, 2 Clatterford Road, Newport, Domino's, St James's Street, Newport, 7 St Thomas's Square, Newport, 42 Trafalgar Road, Newport, 68A St James's Street, Newport, 60 New Street, Newport. There are currently skips at 1 Park Close, Newport, and Turning Area, Chapel Close, Newport. There is currently a cherry picker at Body Shop, 52 High Street, Newport.
In the Ryde area, there is currently scaffolding at Rectory Mansion, 1 Key Lane, Brading, ADA, 55 Union Street, Ryde, Clinton Cards, High Street, Ryde, St James's Church, Market Street, Ryde, 26 George Street, Ryde, 11 John Street, Ryde, 63A High Street, Ryde. There are currently skips at 4 South Street, Ryde, 113 High Park Road, Ryde, Sand Cove, Pier Road, Seaview, Rockcliffe, Circular Road, Seaview. And there is currently a cherry picker at the Codfather, 2 George Street, Ryde. New scaffolding is due up at White's Fish and Chips, 41 to 42 High Street, Ryde, and they're awaiting new dates for that. The Colonnade, Lynn Street, Ryde, from the 21st of May. New skips are due at 2 Cornwall Street, Ryde, the 24th of May.
In the West Wight area, there is currently scaffolding at Memorial Hall, Avenue Road, Freshwater, Patch Computer Shop, 139 School Green Road, Freshwater, On the Rocks, Bridge Road, Yarmouth. New scaffolding is due up at Holdings and Old Post Office, Key Street, Yarmouth, from the 4th of June.
We now come to this week's In Touch. In Touch in this week's episode, Hotels and Travel. In 2016, it was announced that 3 hotels which catered specially for the blind and partially sighted were to be sold. The sites in Windermere and Weston-super-Mare have already changed hands, and now the Clifton Hotel in Teignmouth has been added to the portfolio of mainstream provider Starboard Hotels. We sent our reporter Tom Walker to take a look, talking to the management team about what hospitality lessons can be applied across the other sites. And sticking with the holiday theme, we speak to Chris and Mike Macmillan, 2 travel veterans who tell us their tips and tricks to make your breaks go smoothly. It's presented by Peter White and produced by Kevin Core.
And now for the Isle of Wight County Press, starting with the headline story, War on the Wings. And the heading is Assault Levels and Prisoner Numbers Rocket at Island Jail. This is written by David Newble and Joseph Hook. Assaults at the island's prison have risen to by a staggering 42% in 5 years. Overcrowding in HMP Isle of Wight, which encompasses Parkhurst and Albany, is forcing prisoners to share cells, eating, sleeping and even using the toilet in spaces designed for one. Figures from the Ministry of Justice show 1,090 prisoners were crammed into just 976 spaces at the prison in March, with campaigners saying the unchecked rise of the prison population was responsible for the huge increase in assaults on staff. At the same time, the Prison Officers Association, POA, has warned there is a recruitment crisis at the island's jails. The rise in attacks on staff and prisoners shows the scale of the challenge prison officers on the Isle of Wight are facing. Of the 179 assaults recorded in 2017, 59 were on prison staff and 32 were defined as serious, a category which includes sexual assaults and those which require hospital treatment. In 2012, 126 assaults were recorded. Andy Baxter, the POA's national official for the Isle of Wight, said, "It is clearly an indictment. What you find on the island is assaults are through the roof, and self-harm by prisoners has spiralled in the past 5 years. It is a reflection of what is happening nationally. We have gone through a perfect storm in the prison service. What makes it worse on the island is we are losing more experienced staff." He called for the government to recognise the island factor and offer incentives for prison officers to encourage them to work on the island. The island's 3 former separate prisons, Albany, Camp Hill and Parkhurst, were combined into HMP Isle of Wight in 2009. Although they reported their figures separately until 2013, all 3 institutions have been combined for comparison between 2012 and 2017. The numbers also reveal 541 cases of self-harm among Isle of Wight prisoners were recorded last year, a 93% increase from 2012. Francis Crook, Chief Executive of the Howard League for Penal Reform, said, "The shameful rise in violence and self-injury is the direct result of policy decisions to allow the number of people behind bars to grow unchecked while starving prisoners of resources. This is a national emergency and the government must respond boldly and urgently." The Justice Secretary, David Gauke, said the levels of violence, suicide and self-harm in prisons were too high and the government was taking action to address the problems. "Assaults on our hard-working staff will never be tolerated. We are ensuring prison officers have the tools they need to do the job. Our recruitment drive is vital to ensuring prisons are safe, secure and decent so they can successfully rehabilitate offenders, and 90% of our additional prison officers are due to be on landings by the summer."
And our second headline is that meningitis didn't prevent proposal. Martin Pegram wasn't feeling well on Valentine's Day, but summoned his strength as he had an important question for his girlfriend, Dawn Gary. He insisted on driving her to where they shared their first kiss to pop the question before returning home to share a lemsip. The next day, Martin's condition deteriorated and he was rushed to hospital. Dawn, aged 38, head of business at Sandown Bay Academy, explained, "In the evening he went to bed and had a coughing fit. Despite using his inhaler, it got worse. So I rang 101 and they sent an ambulance immediately. Martin collapsed and became unconscious. His breathing was laboured and sometimes it even stopped. I had to put him in the recovery position several times. The paramedics came and suspected sepsis, so they rushed him to A&E. When I arrived, he was hooked up to a drip and an oxygen machine. Doctors were worried it was some type of mystery virus, so once he was stable, they transferred him to an isolation ward. They started pumping Martin with antibiotics. Over the following days, there were lots of blood tests and even a painful lumbar puncture. His whole body ached and he was sensitive to touch, sound and light. Martin, aged 43, a business accounts sales manager, continued to improve and was allowed home. Doctors said it was probably viral meningitis. Dawn added, I didn't even know about viral meningitis, and it was a bit disconcerting there was no definitive diagnosis. It makes me wonder how many others have gone through this or been misdiagnosed. The charity Meningitis now is highlighting Martin's story during Viral Meningitis Awareness Week to raise awareness of what to look for and what action to take if meningitis is suspected. The charity helps to fund research into vaccines and prevention and supports people living with the impact of the disease.
A new heading, £10 million on agency staff. The Isle of Wight National Health Service Trust has spent £10 million on agency staff since last April. Agency staff have been used to cover medical posts and nursing vacancies across the Trust. The highest users of medical agency staff were general medicine and adult psychiatry, while the highest users of non-medical agency staff were mental health and acute nursing. Agency staff have been used to cover 273 vacancies within the Trust. In total, 15,545 hours were covered by agency staff each month, a weekly full-time equivalent of 102 staff. Trust sickness levels have remained between 4 and 5% since April, with the most common reasons being anxiety, stress and depression, cough, cold and flu. Staff turnover has dropped to just under 10%. Mark Elmore, HR Deputy Director, said, "We recognise the importance and urgency of managing downwards our use and costs of agency staffing. Our priority remains maintaining safe staffing levels."
Ireland to get new trains. Ireland Line's oldest trains look set to be replaced within 2 years. South Western Railway, which operates Ireland Line, said the 1938 London Underground trains would be replaced, not with new trains, but with significantly newer stock. The announcement was made at last Thursday's meeting of the Isle of Wight Council's Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Regeneration, Planning, Housing and the Environment. South Western Railway said, "Although they are an interesting historic experience, we don't think they give a proper modern transport experience on the island." Maintenance of the current trains has become increasingly difficult over the recent years, and South Western Railway said it wanted to provide a service that worked all year round, not just during the summer. Other improvements in the pipeline include the introduction of a new timetable with trains every 30 minutes, onboard Wi-Fi and charging ports, information boards and new CCTV. A new platform layout at Ryde Interchange would create improved access for hover travel passengers. The improvement plan will be put to the Department for Transport, that's the DFT, at the end of May. As part of the franchise agreement with South Western, the DFT must approve the plans before South Western can invest in the new fleet. The DFT will have until the end of the year to consider the plans. If it agrees, it is hoped the old Island Line trains will be replaced by 2020.
Council property scheme to yield £500,000. Investment proposals branded a dead duck by Councillor Brodie, an opposition councillor, are now up and flying, according to Deputy Council Leader Stuart Hutchinson. The Isle of Wight Council has invested £19.5 million in trading units on industrial estates in Manchester and Kent. The investment should net the council an income of £500,000 a year once borrowing costs are met. The authorities plan to borrow £100 million at low interest and invest it in low-risk industrial office and retail properties was planned to generate £5 million a year to help protect vital public services. In February, Finance Cabinet member Councillor Hutchinson admitted returns had not been as great as originally planned. However, at a meeting of the Scrutiny Committee last night, Tuesday, Councillor Hutchinson said the council was about to complete on 2 commercial investments, one in Salford, Manchester, and one in Islestone, Kent. Councillor Hutchinson said, "We are working to generate as much income as we can so we have fewer cuts." The council examined 7 investments, 4 of which were dismissed for not being safe enough or providing a sufficient return. The council bid on a further 1 was lost. Councillor Hutchinson said, "I do recall Councillor Brodie saying the fund was a dead duck, but actually we now have 2 ducks up and flying."
A harbour man is sacked 2 days after a wife's funeral. A campaign has been launched to reinstate Yarmouth Harbour's former Deputy Harbour Master, who was sacked for alleged gross misconduct 2 days after his wife's funeral. Jeremy Butcher, known as Jez, is taking Yarmouth Harbour commissioners to an employment tribunal. Justice for Jez has been launched by his friend Della Phillips and others and has been shared on social media. Yarmouth Harbour said it would be defending the claims at the tribunal. Jez, aged 56, a former Metropolitan Police Detective Sergeant, became Deputy Harbour Master at Yarmouth in 2014 and had had a boat berth there from 2011. The alleged misconduct issue is believed to be over the mooring of his boat. Jez's wife Sarah was diagnosed with terminal cancer in 2013 and died on October the 30th, 2017. Jez was dismissed on November the 23rd for alleged gross misconduct. Della explained, Jez had been signed off by his doctor, understandably so. Nevertheless, rather than the commissioners showing some compassion and understanding, they decided to email him with a confirmation of dismissal, i.e., dismissing him with immediate effect. I am disgusted a person can be treated this way. The timing of this situation was very cruel. It is with great sadness I feel the need to fight Jez's corner like this. However, I can no longer sit back and watch a man of such high integrity be so unfairly treated. I am doing this for Sarah just as much as I am for Jez, and I know she would be right behind me. Jez told the county press, I am still grieving for Sarah, and this has not given me an opportunity to deal with it properly, so I am not that strong at the moment. But I spent 31 years in the police putting wrongs right, so I fully support what's going on with this campaign, and I wouldn't want anyone else to go through what I have. I'm taking this to tribunal because I have been threatened all along to keep this private and confidential, but I feel it should be out in the open so people know exactly what happened and to allow me to keep my dignity. Tim Adams, Yarmouth Harbour Chief Executive and Harbour Master, said, The Harbour is fully aware of Facebook and Twitter posts by Mr. Butcher's friends regarding their belief he was unfairly dismissed. It is, of course, open to Mr. Butcher to pursue a claim in this regard via the employment tribunal system, and this is what we understand he has done. It will now be up to the tribunal to decide whether or not the Harbour has acted fairly in relation to this matter. It will be inappropriate for us to comment further in relation to the facts of this claim while legal proceedings are ongoing, but these will, in any event, become a matter of public record when any tribunal judgment is published.
Call for changes after pub closes. Pub-owning businesses have been branded cartels that exploit their tenants by forcing them to buy beer at sky-high prices, resulting in pub closures across the country. Following the closure of the Pierview Cows, after leaseholder Sue Westcombe called time at the bar last month, the Fair Pint campaign group said even the best pubs struggled to survive. Sue said she was heartbroken to say goodbye after 25 years, but told the county press times were tough as a leaseholder running the pub, which is owned by Enterprise Inns. An Enterprise Inns spokesperson said the Pierview had closed due to the publican's decision to cease trading, and it aimed to reopen the pub as soon as possible. Fair Pint spokesperson Olivia Tyler, who runs 2 pubs in Cowes, the Union Inn, owned by Fuller's, and the Globe, another Enterprise Inns business, said, The sudden closure of the Pierview has shocked everyone who does not understand the problems of the tied tenancy model. It shows even the best pubs with outstanding tenants in excellent positions are not immune to the scandalous behaviour of pub-owning businesses. They tie their tenants to contracts, requiring them to buy products from them at 2.5 times the market value. This inflated price is supposed to be offset by a rent reduction, but over the past decade we have seen tied rents overtake free of tie rents at an alarming pace. Olivia said it was time for government reform of the industry, warning a huge number of island pubs were at risk of closure or development if the situation continued. Despite legislation designed to prevent these large corporations from taking advantage of their tenants, we are seeing more abuse of the system, she said. The only way to protect tenants is an abolition of the tie. This is the only industry allowed to act as a cartel-type organisation, dictating prices and rents as it pleases, and we cannot allow the government to ignore it any longer. It is not tax, beer duty, or popular trends that are killing pubs. It's the #Great British Pub Co scam, and it's not acceptable. Olivia urged people to support their local publicans.
More concerns raised over nature reserve. The countryside campaigners have added their voice to concerns over the future of Newtown National Nature Reserve. Chair of the Isle of Wight branch of the Campaign for the Protection of Rural England, that's CPRE, Alex Haig-Thomas, said it was important large numbers of visitors, particularly dog walkers, were not encouraged to tramp through the village, lest they spoil the tranquillity of the area and disturb the wildlife, particularly the rare birds that nest there. I feel the special character of Newtown has been overlooked amid an apparent drive to promote it to visitors without regard to that character, he said. More needs to be done to emphasise Newtown as a nature reserve, and they should behave accordingly. As reported, National Trust volunteers, 2 of whom were sacked after objecting to plans to revamp the visitor centre, have raised concerns about the commercialisation of the reserve and warned the site cannot sustain ever-increasing visitor numbers. The Trust General Manager for the island, Tony Tutton, reiterated the Trust did not market Newtown in the same way as other sites such as the Needles and Bembridge Windmill, and said it only advertised nature-themed events and family activities. Speaking after articles appeared in the national press last week, Mr Tutton said the issue had been blown out of proportion and people were worrying unnecessarily. I've worked here for 31 years and there have been busier and less busy periods. I think the tranquillity is still there. If you look at Newtown in 5 years, it won't have changed very much, but we will have engaged with more people and shown them how to behave responsibly, he said. Mr Tutton said the Trust could not stop people visiting Newtown, but it could engage with them to teach them about the importance of caring for the reserve and its wildlife. He said in an email to Mr Haig-Thomas there was not room for more people, but clarified his point to say there was not room for more cars. New signs are due to be placed around the reserve, reminding visitors to take care and telling dog owners to keep their pets on a lead.
Man 70 remanded over knife threats. A pensioner who allegedly threatened a person with a knife at McDonald's Newport has been remanded in custody. Malcolm Swan, 70, of no fixed address, was arrested just after 4:30 p.m. last Thursday at Scarrott's Lane, Newport, after an altercation at McDonald's restaurant on St James's Street. He was charged with 2 offences: threatening a person with a blade or a sharp-pointed article in a public place, and using threatening, abusive or insulting words or behaviour to cause harassment, alarm or distress. He appeared at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court last Friday and was remanded in custody until June the 11th, when he will appear at the Isle of Wight Crown Court.
We continue with the pub theme. A drunk is threatened pub landlord. Angered, he was reported to police for drink driving. Raymond Jones threatened to kill a pub landlord, warning the landlord needed police outside his premises. Jones, aged 57, of the Pits, Ventnor, admitted a charge of threatening to take revenge through making a phone call and a further 2 charges of resisting a constable in the execution of his duties when he appeared for sentence at the Isle of Wight Crown Court. The court heard police received a phone call from the landlord and landlady of the Star Inn at Wroxall, who had refused to serve Jones as he was drunk. Jones was asked to leave, became abusive, then got into his vehicle and drove off. The couple were so concerned they called the police, said Rose Burns, prosecuting. At around 11:20 p.m, Jones called the pub and became abusive to the landlord and said he needed to have police sitting outside the premises. Police visited Jones' address and asked to be let in, but Jones replied, "Why, so you can bang me up again?" As Jones was arrested, his dog bit a police officer while Jones continued to resist. The court heard he was disqualified from driving for 29 months. Sentencing Jones, Judge Robert Linford said Jones's behaviour had been out of character and he needed to keep working with probation services in relation to the offences. He said, "You frightened these people in that pub. All they were doing was their public duty." He jailed Jones for 15 months, suspended for 2 years, and ordered him to pay a victim charge.
Triplets together for their big day. Everyone living in Newport during the 1950s and 1960s remembers the England boys, triplets Mike, Art and Bob. The trio, who were born in Gunville on May the 4th, 1948 and attended Priory Boys' School, have celebrated their 70th birthday. And what better time than to reminisce about the old days? Everyone knew us because we were the only triplets, said Mike, the eldest by a few minutes. It was different then, though. Everybody knew everybody, and we were always out up at the castle or at the fairs at 9 Acres Field. There were 3 cinemas in Newport, so we were always at the pictures, and I had my first drink at the pub at Mountjoy. It cost a shilling. The boys, Michael, followed by Arthur and Robert, were born to Thomas and Mary England at St Mary's Hospital, each weighing around 4 pounds. They grew up in a busy household with an elder sister, Diane, and younger brother, Peter. All 3 learned a trade. Mike worked at British Hovercraft, Art at Westland Aerospace, and Bob at a piling company. And they all had families of their own. Mike and Sandra, now living in Freshwater, had 2 children, Rachel and Stephen. Art and Diane, who stayed in Newport, had a daughter, Emma. And Bob and his late wife, Valerie, who moved to Ryde, had 2 children, Karen and Shane. They have 11 grandchildren between them. Now retired, Mike loves motorbikes, fishing and shooting. He shot for the Ireland Games team, while Art enjoys gardening. They celebrated their birthday with a family party at Rachel's house on Sunday. Mike said, "It's funny, even though we all live on the island, we don't see each other that often. People should get together more, especially as they get older."
Extension put on ice. Plans for an extension to Freshwater Library have been put on hold. The proposed extension would provide a heritage centre plus offices and facilities to house Freshwater Parish Council. However, at an extraordinary meeting on Tuesday, Parish councillors voted against the scheme. Parish Council Chair Councillor Jill Bennett said, "We decided against seeking lottery funding for the extension. Councillors felt the scheme would be too costly for the community and took into account public consultations, which suggested a more cost-effective solution should be found. The council was looking for matched funding for the project, which meant it would have to find around £250,000. Councillor Kennett added, "We would be committing a lot of public money to the extension. and we felt we should now look for a plan B. At our AGM on Tuesday, we will set up a working party to consider different options with a view to still having a heritage centre on the site.
Josh on top of the world. Josh Barry cannot walk to the bathroom unaided due to his cerebral palsy, but that didn't stop him from climbing South Wales' biggest mountain. The 30-year-old from East Cowes has cerebral palsy and a rare condition that affects speech and movement. He needs constant care at his home. Despite this, with the support of his 23-strong team, he reached the summit of Pen y Fan, 886 metres above sea level, last weekend. Josh is raising money for Brainwave, a national charity which helps children with disabilities and additional needs to achieve greater independence. He also walked in memory of Joel Ryan, the brother of one of the team, supporting him during the walk, and Alice Turner, who worked with Josh and the families of other disabled children. Josh said, "I just can't believe I've done it. Even when we were approaching Pen y Fan on Saturday morning, I just couldn't believe I was going to climb a mountain. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but the feeling I got when I reached the top was absolutely indescribable." Ben Turner, Josh's carer, said they had prepared by walking over Tennyson and Colville Down and training at Medina Leisure Centre. "It was very emotional at the top. I did the last 200 metres with Josh after jumping in and out throughout the walk. After we got to the top, the response from everyone was incredible. The group received £300 in donation from other walkers on the day, which will be added to the £2,500 already raised. Although no more physical challenges are in the pipeline for Josh, he is releasing a book at the end of the year, which he hopes will be a different kind of challenge.
Road to Nowhere finally opens. It was dubbed the Road to Nowhere, with around 100 homes stuck at the end of the longest cul-de-sac in the island. But this week, Godric Road in Newport was finally completed, 3 years after the first residents moved in. The main access road at Barratt Homes Pan Development, it fell 400 metres short of connecting to St George's Way. It left residents with no choice but to drive to the Staplers roundabout just to leave their homes. The road, branded the Road to Nowhere by Isle of Wight Council ward member Councillor Jeff Brodie, was due to be completed last autumn, but the work was hit by delays. The council refused to licence Barratt to build any more homes on the development until the road was completed. Councillor Brodie said, "I am delighted the road has been completed after months of delay. Many of my residents have been stuck at the end of a very long cul-de-sac for more than 3 years." Council leader Councillor Dave Stewart said, "While there have been some delays, we made sure its completion was a priority. Working in partnership with Barratt Homes, we can now look towards more new homes being built as part of the next phase of the development." And on that note, we say goodbye to you. So it's bye-bye from Mike.
And bye-bye from Pauline.
Good morning, everyone. It's reading the County Press again. It's hello from Barry.
And it's hello from Linda.
And we start with a letter of the week. A rather sad story of Ludo, the dog, from Vivian Blackman, Pagan, West Sussex. While walking to the Needles, my Jack Russell dog spotted and chased a rabbit to the edge of the cliff and disappeared. When he didn't reappear, and it being too dangerous to get close, we called the Coast Guards in. In their climbing gear, they scaled the cliff and found his body on the beach below. They asked us to warn all dog owners to be cautious, as this was not a one-off. I would like to thank the Coast Guards, who treated us with such kindness and were so helpful in the aftermath. My dog's name was Ludo, and he was a rescue dog. He was roughly 6 years old, and I had him for 3 years as my friend and companion since my husband died. I am devastated at losing him in such a tragic way.
And now from Tim Lee of Freshwater. I would like to congratulate all the cyclists involved in Sunday's event on the island for their good behaviour, politeness and obedience of the road traffic laws. Unfortunately, I am unable to do. While going about my business attempting to attend a boiler breakdown, I came across a group in a quiet lane cycling ahead of me, travelling in the same direction, 5 abreast across the entire width of the lane. In order to alert them to my presence, I gave a very brief toot on my horn in accordance with the highway code, to be met with a single raised finger and abuse from one of the group, who all continued on to the end of the lane, refusing to allow motorised traffic to pass them in either direction. Later, on my way home through Yarmouth, I was interested to note a large number of cyclists ignoring both the give-way markings and no entry sign, taking the shortest possible route back to the ferry, oblivious of all other road users. These individuals harm the reputation of all cyclists, cause resentment and ill feeling towards them, and should not be made welcome on our island. Donning multicoloured lycra and wraparound sunglasses does not exempt you from road traffic law or the need to extend common courtesy to other road users.
And here we have care statistics made shameful reading. Our elderly people surely deserve better than this, writes County Press editor Alan Marriott. Once again, the Isle of Wight has finished rock bottom of the national table for caring for old people, and it really just is not good enough. The Isle of Wight Council has sought to put a positive spin on exactly what it is doing to improve things, but the excuses and promises are wearing a bit thin. This has been an ongoing problem, but according to the latest data from Trusted Care, which amalgamates all of the Care Quality Commission reports on the island's care provision, we are back where we started, propping up the rest of the country. Given our demographic profile, shows we have one of the most senior populations in the United Kingdom. You could argue that we should be very well practised at looking after people in care homes, that we are not. Care home services are the worst in the country. Home care agencies are in the bottom 5, but at least we are good at supported living, 4th in the table. Dr. Carol Tozer, said to earn up to £105,000 a year as our head of adult services, came into the job at the end of 2016 talking about implementing a vision that was already in place and, quote, thinking differently. But on her watch we have now slipped down to bottom of the class once more, and we are hearing phrases such as the figures being, quote, disappointing reading. No one would say the care world is an easy one, and with a growing aged population and ever-tightening purse strings, one doesn't envy anyone trying to get it right. One former carer, who contacted County Press online, said the short time they worked in the industry was the hardest job they had ever done, and for the minimum wage on 12-hour shifts. The figures may be disappointing to you, Dr. Tozer, but people with friends and relatives having put up with 0-star service may well have stronger adjectives. Shameful may be a starting point.
And from Maggie McNeil Smith of Freshwater. This bank holiday has been perfect heaven, or has it? Sadly, our May Day visitors have shown no sign of the respect we as islanders accord each other on a daily basis, especially when it comes to our roads. To be told to get off the road or get out of the way by cyclists who are only too happy to take up the entire road and whiz at alarming speed with no concern as to people who might just want to cross the road or manoeuvre their cars is unbelievable. Then there are the motorcyclists who roar past cars and join up in little cliques, again posing untold problems for motorists. And now road rage, which is unbelievable as to the suddenness and depth of this, leaving us islanders bemused and utterly at a loss as to how nice people at heart can scream out such foul language. I think it is time that on every ferry exit there should be a notice stating, "The Isle of Wight welcomes patient and considerate drivers and cyclists," which to my mind says it all.
And Brian Greening writes from Newport, "Could I congratulate Simon Rhodes with regard to the topic of Lynbottom Tip? He summed up exactly what I believe is the majority thinking of island residents. To only open the tip during the hours when most people are at work beggars belief. The only comment missing in an otherwise outstanding letter was my belief there is a fatality waiting to happen when impatient drivers possibly collide one of those sharp bends approaching from Bridlesford. Will we be told in 12 months how much extra money was spent on combating fly tipping? No doubt that will be buried to avoid their folly being made public. What Councillor Dave Stewart wants to consider is that all this tightening of the purse straps is as a result of receiving less money from their own political masters at Westminster. Far better they as a group make it a stand and tell them enough is enough. Expensive car parking, the floating bridge fiasco, budgets reduced to the detriment of those islanders most in need, etc., etc. Step down, Tory boys, and give Mr. Rhodes 12 months at the helm. We could do much worse."
Again on the tip from Bill Martin of Cowes. With reference to the Refu Tip opening hours fiasco in past county press, this could be a golden opportunity for an enterprising company to advertise on social media. Next door would be ideal, offering a collection and disposal service for small loads that could be aggregated into a worthwhile large load. I don't drive, and having just sorted my shed, I have a load waiting to go, but certainly have no wish for any of my family to queue for ages or drive around the area on my behalf, and I certainly wouldn't want it brought back. The Isle of Wight Council offers a bulk waste collection service for £30 for 4 items, but none of my junk would be covered.
And from Phil Cave of Newport, "Can I make a suggestion to the Isle of Wight Council and Island Roads about the plans for pedestrianisation and change of traffic flows in Newport and Ventnor? Before spending millions of pounds on these schemes, is it not feasible to have a dry run on both ideas? This could be done by temporary traffic lights, road closure signs and change of flow where the flow is supposed to be changed. If at the end of the trial period the changes are deemed a success, go ahead, but if the plans have been a disaster, go back to the road as now. Also, at the end of the trial period, consult all people directly affected, including businesses and householders, and seek their suggestions. To spend £9 million in today's financial climate on plans that seem likely to stab in the dark does not make sense without a trial period."
From Terence Bendixson, who is the president of the Living Streets, the Pedestrians Association, London. High streets and shopping streets up and down the country are threatened by the growth of online buying, unaffordable business rates and unpleasant motor traffic. Essen, in the Ruhr, pedestrianised its main street in the 1930s, while Norwich devoted London Street to walkers in the 1960s. In both cases, and in all subsequent ones, the aim was to create attractive destinations, places in which people might linger and enjoy themselves. May I therefore applaud Ventnor's pedestrianisation plans, while leaving to others the debate about how to reroute traffic. Ventnor, like other towns, needs to leave no paving stone unturned in seeking to create delight for shoppers, visitors and other people on foot.
And from Sally Collins, Appeal Administrator of the Cinnamon Trust. "We urgently need dog walking volunteers to help our residents of Bembridge with Ollie, their adorable 4-year-old Shih Tzu, who would love to go for a good walk. If you can spare an hour a week, this would make all the difference to someone being able to keep their furry companions living with them. If you would like to volunteer, or even have a chat about what's involved, please ring on 01736 758 707 and speak to Tressa or Sally, or email appeal@sydenham.org.uk.
From Lorna Llewellyn of Bembridge. For many years we've had the privilege of living in the centre of Bembridge. We have watched the extremely hard-working shop owners and restaurateurs build up a thriving community, each business boosting each other's trade. This is why we sincerely hope the parish council will grant the fish shop, Captain Stan's, their well-deserved 10-year lease extension that so many of us signed and petitioned for. The fish shop brings many customers to Bembridge from a wide area, providing a much-needed venue to buy fresh fish and delicious home-cooked dishes, all of which are appreciated by so many.
And now we have looking back. 100 years ago, May the 11th, 1918, the first Isle of Wight Labour Party was formed in an effort to attain the emancipation of the working classes from a state of serfdom. Mr. W. Berryman said the group had the will and the power to make the party one to be feared and to be thankful for. He said there was no reason why the Isle of Wight should not have a successful Labour candidate. The Wages Board Committee protested strongly against grouping the Island District Wages Board with Hampshire and Dorset. Unfortunately, the arrangement continued, but the committee hoped that the Isle of Wight would be properly represented on a board situated on the mainland.
And 75 years ago, May the 8th, 1943, well-known actress Phyllis Nielsen Terry spoke at the inauguration of the Ministry of Food cookery demonstrations. The Mayoress took the chair at the event held in the British restaurant Newport. The demonstration was for the benefit of housewives who were trying to stretch small amounts of food. News reached the island of an islander's tragic death in Denmark. George Harvey, originally of Freshwater, was working as an engineer in Copenhagen when his bicycle collided with a tramcar. He died the next morning in hospital.
And 50 years ago, May the 4th, 1968, a bizarre assortment of 61 guns and 1,000 rounds of ammunition comprised a miniature arsenal after a 3-month firearms amnesty. The hoard included 22 shotguns, 14 rifles, 9 revolvers, 7 pistols and 3 air guns. The most interesting was a 22 files stamped Cherokee Falls, April 1794. 51 children marched through Cowes to present a petition to the council offices at Norwood House. They were angry at the decision by Cowes Council to turn a children's playground into a car park. The petition carried 616 signatures.
Now, 25 years ago, May the 7th, 1993, Black Gang Chine owners bought Robin Hill Adventure Park as part of its 150th anniversary. Richard Bennis, managing director of Down End Enterprises, which owned Robin Hill, said his firm has reached an agreement with the Daybell family, which owned Black Gang. The new owners aim to make an immediate start on a long-term programme of refurbishment. The Medina Housing Association offered £10,000 to 60 of its tenants if they agreed to move out of their houses. The money had come from a government-funded housing corporation, and the special grant helped get the private housing market moving again.
And 10 years ago, May the 9th, 2008, Wight Link introduced a fuel surcharge on its routes because of the rocketing cost of diesel. Red Funnel and Hover Travel said they had no plans to follow Wight Link's lead. Wight Link pointed to a 76% rise in oil prices. Government Minister for the South East, Jonathan Shaw, said the Isle of Wight's tourism industry would only flourish if the Isle of Wight Council and the Chamber of Commerce buried the hatchet. He said, "We need a coordinated approach to tourism, and both these bodies should be involved." Wight memories.
Land Army memories. During the Second World War, the Women's Land Army were hard at work on the island, helping the war effort with agriculture. One woman involved, Jean Wagner, née Bagshaw, shared with the county press her memories of coming to the Isle of Wight as a young woman to work on the land. The majority of the women involved in the Women's Land Army were already from rural areas, but many moved from cities to join the organisation. Mrs. Wagner said, "Over 70 years ago, myself and several young Women's Land Army girls came to the island. We were from Newcastle, Birmingham, Derbyshire and London. We lived in a hostel in Carter Street, Sandown. Some of us had never even seen a cow. We worked hard and learned many things we'd never even heard of. They were the happiest years of my life." Quite a few of the girls married boys from the island. My friend Betty married John Allen from Black Pan Farm Lake. Her name was Betty Walker, and we kept in touch all these years. She died in January, aged 91. I am 90 this year. Please tell me that I'm not the last one standing. Some of the other women working in the Land Army with Mrs. Wagner were Jean Wood, Jean White, Colleen Dixon, Audrey Cunningham and Sybil Drawbridge.
And also a note here, a shell discovered in a cupboard. This 18-pounder shell case was discovered when Ryde resident Chris Patterson was clearing out a cupboard. Luckily the shell case was empty. With the shell case was a letter saying it was recovered from the wrecked steamship SS Louise, which was torpedoed off St. Catherine's Point by a U-boat on April 12, 1918. The ship was towed into Luckham Chine, where she sank. The SS Louise had been on passage to Dieppe with a cargo of flour, oil and 18-pounder projectiles for use in trench warfare, which were packed 4 shells to a case. The ammunition was recovered by a West Country salvage company in its ship MV Deep Adventurer of Falmouth.
More white memories. In a salute to the dam busters. With the 75th anniversary of Operation Chastise, more famously known as the Dam Busters Raid, being marked next week, the county press takes a look at 2 of the aircraft gunners who have connection to the island. Operation Chastise was an attack on German dams by the RAF's No. 617 Squadron on May the 16th and 17th, 1943, using specially developed bouncing bombs. Many men lost their lives during the dangerous mission, and 2 dams were breached, causing catastrophic flooding of the Ruhr Valley. The operation was led by 24-year-old Wing Commander Guy Gibson, a veteran of more than 170 bombing and night fighter missions. Richard Trevor Roper flew as Guy Gibson's rear gunner on the operation and was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. He was born in Shanklin in May 1915. Trevor Roper transferred to the RAF from the Army in 1939 and flew as a sergeant gunner and also trained as a wireless operator, gaining the Distinguished Flying Medal before being commissioned in 1941. He was moved to the No. 617 Squadron and was one of the most experienced gunners to take part in the dam's raid. Gibson described Trevor Roper in his book Enemy Coast Ahead as one of the real squadron characters, but he noticed he was quiet on the flight out to the dams, perhaps because his wife was about to give birth to their first baby.
Following Operation Chastise, Trevor Roper left the squadron but was killed on March the 31st, 1944, on an operation over Germany. He is commemorated on the Shanklin War Memorial. Another of the dam busters was Douglas Webb, who was a gunner on the front turret with Flight Sergeant Bill Townsend's crew. He was born in London but settled in Yarmouth and died in 1996, his ashes being scattered on the island. Webb was also trained as a wireless operator but flew as a gunner. Having to take a pilot's induction exam, Webb deliberately made a nonsense of it as he wanted to be a gunner. He was normally a mid-upper gunner with Townsend's crew, which after a tour of 25 operations volunteered to join the number 617 Squadron on their secret mission. The crew went to RAF Scampton for 10 weeks of intensive training, which involved lots of cross-country low-level flying, as low as 60 feet. On the night he occupied the front turret, and before the raid he, in his own words, quote, scrounged an extra 1,000 rounds of ammo, which later proved to be invaluable. Townsend's aircraft flew in the third wave and was directed to the little-known Anip Dam while in the air. Flak was extremely heavy, as the enemy had been alerted by the first two waves. Webb hosed the enemy position with his machine guns, and as he fired upon the searchlights, he was glad of the extra rounds he had brought. Theirs was the last plane back from the raid, and the fast approaching dawn made the return trip very dangerous. They flew dangerously low, hugging the contours of the land and avoiding unexpected landmarks and pylons through a barrage of anti-aircraft fire. Webb was awarded the Distinguished Flying Medal. Webb also left the squadron shortly after Operation Chastise, but continued to fly, was commissioned and ended the war as a flight lieutenant. Post-war, he resumed his career as a photographer and settled at Yarmouth on the island with his partner, Pamela Green, a famous glamour model. Thanks to Yakel Gruby and John Sweetman for their assistance with images and information.
And now my view, from Alan Marriott. Headlined, "Jumpers for goalposts maybe, but this?" Any column I could write about island cricket would automatically be compared to the far superior scribbling of the late great Keith Newbury, so I've always tried to steer clear of musing on the summer game. But the goings-on at Ryde Academy in the Harwood's over 45 indoor league in recent weeks would surely have left Mr. N chuckling away in that great pavilion in the sky. This league was set up by that wonderful enabler of sport for all, Paul Biddlecombe, who could possibly forget his South Wight netball league in the 1980s, to keep ageing cricketers semi-mobile through the winter months and provide a finishing school for the island over 50s team. Up to this year we had seen some pretty decent players taking part, cricketers who still ply their summer trade in high-level Island and Hampshire leagues. However, this season has been more of a struggle, with players swapping teams like kids exchange football cards just to get games on, and it led to a series of farcical events where I would be playing against a player in one match, then 10 minutes later be on the same team. One low point was being run out by the 70-year-old Jeff Smith twice in the same match, and another was when I captained the Lord Gaveston team, don't ask about the name, only for two of my players to point-blank refuse to open the batting. However, the nadir of the season was the final evening. I was in the changing rooms when that cricket crease dancer Paul Hopcroft said, "Have you looked in the sports hall? You really should." I peered through the door to see, instead of two sets of fine ash stumps, a pair of black plastic dustbins in their place. Isle of Wight Cricket Board Chairman Phil Mew didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and Mr. Biddlecombe was speechless, very unusual for Paul. Jumpers for goalposts? Several of the old boys commented that was exactly how they used to play cricket as kids on the local rec, so it was a real throwback. But there is a serious side to this laughable chaos. Ryde Academy built a sports hall with no usable viewing area to watch, and although the school was happy to take our money, could not provide the basic equipment. Oh, it's one of many examples of sporting facilities on the island going to the dogs, but that is another story.
To have Jonathan Young writing about the war on dogs' mess, which needs to be heated up. It's been known for some time there's no such thing as the dog poo fairy. Campaigners apparently blame the urban myth which had grown up around the DPF for the epidemic of fecal slime blighting Britain's highways and byways. Once the record was set straight, they figured everyone would pull together, bag it, bin it, and avoid kids going blind from a parasitical infection called toxocariasis. Twee pink posters spread the message nationwide. Keep Britain tidy could not have been more wrong. The problem, certainly on the island, has only got worse. The brutal truth is that a minority of dog owners don't need excuses to not clean up. What they need is good, solid reasons to do so. The Freedom Information Act, FOIA, is a wonderful thing, as Tony Blair confirmed in his memoirs when he called himself an irresponsible nincompoop for introducing it. Things the Act obliges the Council to tell us include how many prosecutions for dog fouling has the Council brought to each of the most recent 3 years for which data is available. This was an easy one. They seem to know the answer off pat. The Isle of Wight Council has never prosecuted for dog fouling. I kid you not. That's not in fact the whole story. In order to get the information you want under the FOIA, you have to ask precisely the right question. The Council didn't mention fixed penalty notices because it wasn't asked about the fixed penalty notices, only about the prosecutions. Blair would be proud of them. OK, silly me, deep breath, try again. How many fixed penalty notices in the past 3 years, and how many of them paid? Only slightly better news, a modest number of notices and nearly all of them paid. But here's the twist. Only the Council is empowered to enforce dog fouling laws, but it doesn't have to, because it's not a statutory obligation. So when the money runs out, it's one of the things that doesn't get done, unless of course someone else just stumps up. The Isle of Wight Council first port of call when the money runs out, whether for dog fouling or much else, is the island's town and parish councils, whose council tax precepts remain, for now, uncapped. This has led to the absurd situation where local councils can call in an enforcement officer, and only if they've contracted to buy that officer's time. A system where the law is only enforced if you pay for it piecemeal is a broken system and can't be what was intended when the Fouling of Land by Dogs, IW, Order Fouling of Land by Dogs, was introduced. Note the bit that says Isle of Wight, not some bits of the Isle of Wight, not Isle of Wight subscribing areas, just Isle of Wight, IW. And if this is where we've arrived, as a result of council tax capping, then the system's broken as well. The advantages of having a Conservative government, a Conservative MP and a Conservative council are supposed to involve them talking to each other. They could begin by tackling the dangerous degrading of local services, such as combating dog fouling in the name of austerity, which is simply a political choice and a bad one at that. We're all paying island roads to clear dog mess from the roads, pavements and some footpaths. So call 01983 822 440 with an exact location.
And now Behind the News by Emily Pearce. A tragic tale of a couple whose marriage ended with his arrest for murder. The tragic tale of a once bright and beautiful woman who was ravaged and eventually killed by alcoholism has been told by the man who loved her and was wrongfully accused of her murder. As paramedics battled to save Lynn Reeve at the Gurnard home she shared with husband Ron, after he found her unresponsive in their bedroom and called an ambulance, he was ushered away by police officers who arrested him on suspicion of killing her. He was not allowed to see his wife, whom he had cared for as she spiralled deeper and deeper, until she was broken and bedridden, doubly incontinent and drinking up to 5 bottles of wine a day, or travel with her to the hospital. It was heartbreaking. I just wanted to be with her. It made me feel sick to be accused like that. I'm not a violent person, said Ron, 62, who was held overnight and the following day before he was released without charge. I remember she was on the floor at the top of the stairs, half in the bedroom, with the paramedics around her. That's the image I keep getting flashbacks of. However, the police had a reason to suspect Ron. In the days before her death, on January the 26th last year, Lynn had told police and mental health officers he had beaten and sexually assaulted her. Ron denied the allegation. He said, I loved her so much I would never have hurt a hair on her head. If I could have died instead of her, I would have. A post-mortem concluded Lynn's death was sudden, unexpected, and in relation to alcohol misuse. No evidence was found to suggest she had been assaulted. An investigation by the Isle of Wight Safeguarding Adults Board to see if anything could have prevented Lynn's death and to learn from it also concluded she had not been a victim of abuse or neglect. There is no doubt, however, that their marriage was turbulent, even volatile, and police had previously investigated domestic abuse allegations against Lynn as well as Ron.
She had a long history of alcohol abuse, suffered from numerous serious health issues, and had been admitted to hospital at least 20 times in the 2 years before she died. She was once sectioned under the Mental Health Act. According to the recently published safeguarding report, Lynn, anonymised as Mrs. P, had self-harmed or overdosed at least 10 times, suffering hallucinations, and once fractured her back and ribs falling down the stairs. Some mental health workers believed Lynn was manipulative and Ron was, quote, a saint for caring for her. Others said he was controlling and suggested she was his victim. Ron, who attributed Lynn's alcoholism to childhood abuse, said, when she drank, God help you, she would pull the TV off the wall, she would smash furniture and crockery. I would wrap my arms around her and hold her until she calmed down. But I don't want people to think it was like that all the time, because it wasn't. We loved each other. 2 days before she died, when she had not eaten for 5 weeks and drank only wine, Lynn's health took a turn for the worse, and Ron called NHS 111 for advice. The couple were known to health services, and 2 mental health workers were sent to their home at the Avenue. Lynn told them Ron had attacked her, following a trip to St Mary's Hospital, where Ron believes more should have been done to help his wife. Ron was arrested for the first time. He was released without charge the next day and returned home, where he told Lynn, had pleaded with him, don't ever leave me. I was assured care would be arranged for Lynn because she couldn't be left alone. But it wasn't, said Roy. There were nappies all over the bedroom, washing up bowl full of sick next to her. She said she was tired, so she wrapped herself up and went to sleep. She asked me to give her a kiss. It was our last. When Ron called upstairs 10 minutes later, there was no answer. Lynn was just 45 when she died. Ron feels Lynn was badly let down by the island's health and social care services. He believes the doctors at St Mary's were wrong to send her home and cannot accept their contention that she was medically fit for discharge, as she was so weak. He had lodged a formal complaint with the Isle of Wight NHS Trust. The safeguarding report identified several shortcomings on part of statutory services. Police had failed to identify alleged crimes as safeguarding concerns. The Health Trust investigations were poorly conducted and lacked detail, and the Isle of Wight Council's adult social care team had not submitted a report at all. Ron admitted it was doubtful Lynn would have accepted further help or stopped drinking. She was very proud. She would have periods where she didn't drink, maybe for 6 months, but she would always go back, he said. Now living with friends in Portsmouth, Ron, who used to run a pine furniture business on the island, cannot bear to return to the home he shared with Lynn. but he cannot bring himself to end the lease either. All her clothes are still there and all his memories. The couple met in 2002 in Gran Canaria, where he was running a timeshare resort, and she was a member of the sales team. She was absolutely beautiful, blonde with blue eyes, fun-loving, popular and glamorous. She always looked immaculate, recalled Ron. She was one of the kindest, most loving people you could ever meet. She would have given her last penny and left herself with nothing. I still think how lucky I was. She could have had anyone else she wanted. Liverpudlian Lynn and Ron, who had previously lived on the island, returned from Gran Canaria when she became ill and married at the Isle of Wight Registry Office. "It's such a waste. Everyone loved her," said Ron, who visited Lynn's body at the mortuary every day after she died, just to be near her. "I said so many times I couldn't cope, that I was leaving, but I could never have walked away from her."
The Isle of Wight Council and Hampshire Constabulary have both issued responses on the shortcomings identified in the Safeguarding Review. The Isle of Wight National Health Service Trust has declined to comment. The Isle of Wight Council's Adult Social Care and Community Wellbeing Assistant Director for Integrated Service Delivery, Mike Corrigan, said, "We would want to reassure the family that while the sad death of Mrs. P was not subject to a statutory safeguarding review, it was still taken very seriously. The review that was undertaken involved fully those organisations that had had contact with Lynn, and it included discussions with her husband. The action plan that has been devised seeks to ensure that any lessons learned are incorporated in practice. All those involved understood that Lynn's husband felt she had been let down by the services who had contact with her. Her sudden death was clearly very distressing. Every effort is being made to consider how in circumstances such as those described in this review, responses could have better coordinated so that all the services involved have a clearer understanding of each other's roles and responsibilities, and the individual involved feels better supported." Hampshire Constabulary Chief Superintendent Craig Dibdin said, "The circumstances of this case are very sad, and my thoughts remain with the family of the vulnerable adult involved. I want to assure people that we have responded by reviewing how we work with partner agencies, in particular how we share information, and increasing the understanding of each other's roles. We will continue to work with officers to ensure that they understand Section 42 of the Care Act 2014, their responsibilities in respect of this, and when to refer to partners. Over the past 18 months, we have been working really hard to make some significant improvements to the way we deal with domestic abuse, and have made a number of changes to our processes in force. Victim safeguarding is always at the centre of this. We recognise that we need to work together with our partners on the island to build trust and support with victims and enable them to change their lives for the better. In addition, we are looking at ways to prevent domestic abuse. We work closely with partners to identify the perpetrators who pose the highest risk and make sure their behaviour is managed. We know that prosecution sends a strong message. However, in some cases this is not always the best option. We will always look towards long-term solutions and have a number of outcomes we can consider with the agreement of the victim.
And we have further note on the people enjoying the cycling over the bank holiday. Thousands enjoy pedalling. By James Walven. Thousands of cyclists enjoyed spectacular sunshine for the Isle of Wight randonnée on Sunday. A record-breaking 3,100 people took part. The 100 km cycle ride went round the entire island clockwise, with checkpoints at East Cowes, Wootton, Bembridge, Ulverston, Ventnor and Yarmouth. There was also a 55 km route going through Newport and around the East Wight. The randonnée has been going for more than 30 years now and is a free-to-enter, family-friendly event without a racing element. As well as all the Isle of Wight cyclists, the event attracted many people from the mainland. Andy Newman of the Wayfarer Cycle Touring Club Randonnée team said, "We thank our sponsors, especially Morrison's, who donated a large amount of food for the Ventnor checkpoint, proceeds of which will be donated to the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance." Mr Hilson said, "I was cycling past Bembridge Airport and started slowing down and running out of puff and gasping for breath. I was hitting my chest. I was on the side of the road on all fours, and a lady pulled over and called an ambulance. The air ambulance landed in the airport and took me over to Portsmouth. They were really professional and put me at ease. The speed with which they got me sorted out was so impressive. I'm still cycling now, and because of all the exercise, the better diet and all things the hospital had told me, I am now fitter than I was before. I am delighted to be fundraising for the air ambulance. It is such a vital service." Mike Snedden of Salisbury, who is cycling the whole route with a massive sound system, said, "The psychological benefit of music far outweighs the physical weight. 99 out of 100 people smile when they see me coming. One in 100 turn round looking like a bulldog chewing a wasp, think I'm a yob in a hatchback, and then realise it's just a bicycle." Among the many cyclists taking part were a whole host of child cyclists. One such youngster was Harrison Hendy, 8 years of age, of Arreton. Harrison cycled 105 km in 4 hours 37 minutes. This was the third time he had taken part in the randonnée, which he first completed when he was just 6 years old. Harrison is part of the Isle of Wight Council's Talented Athlete scheme, sponsored by White Link and Southern Vetches.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. This is Linda saying goodbye and have a lovely sunny weekend.
And this is Barry saying goodbye, and we hope the lovely weather continues so you can enjoy it as much as possible. Thank you.
This is the BBC.
This is In Touch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter White. Thanks for downloading this week's edition. Good evening. Very much a holiday flavour to tonight's In Touch. Where to go, what to take and what to check to get the very most from your holiday if you're visually impaired. But first, few topics have caused as much controversy on the programme over the past couple of years as the decision, announced in 2016, to sell 3 hotels which catered specifically for blind and partially sighted people. They were owned either by RNIB or Guide Dogs, and at the time, the RNIB said they were being sold because of falling demand for what they offered. Almost all of the many who contacted us afterwards didn't agree, saying that they found a hotel option which was geared to their needs and provided a place where they could mix with other visually impaired people invaluable and relaxing. Well, since then, hotels in Windermere and Weston-super-Mare have been sold, but amid assurances that the ethos of those hotels would be maintained and that existing staff would keep their jobs. And the Clifton Hotel in Teignmouth has just been added to the portfolio of mainstream provider Starboard Hotels. Well, we sent our reporter Tom Walker for a well-earned midweek break to ask staff and guests how they feel now about the takeover and whether there's still a need for specialist hotels like the Clifton.
I've just arrived and I found my room. The first thing I notice is that the numbers are raised and also in braille underneath. Let's go and have a look at the room. It's a good old-fashioned key, which I prefer. And here we are. So this is my room. Well, the first thing I notice is it is actually quite big. Now, where would the lights be? Here we are. And it's certainly good lighting, very, very bright. Means I can get around fairly easily. My first impression is that it doesn't look any different at first sight from any other hotel I've stayed in, although I suspect there are one or two subtle differences. Now, over here, for instance, there is a cup, and this is a liquid level indicator. My initial impressions then of the hotel are that the adaptations they've made, certainly to this room, are very unobtrusive. In fact, it looks like the type of room you'd find in any hotel in any other part of the country. So let's see what the rest of the place is like. This is Izzy. She's one of the supervisors here. She's going to show me some of the features that make this hotel unique. I'll follow you, Izzy.
The first thing you'll notice is we have signs here which are tactile and in braille.
Now, my braille, I have to confess, is not particularly very good. But I think that says lifts, access to floors 1 and 2.
That's correct.
And do you find that your visually impaired guests find that useful?
They find the tactile more than the braille. There's not a lot of braille readers around so much, but the tactile and the fact that it's in larger print for them helps them enormously.
Well, let's go through reception, and we're going to go to where next?
We'll go into the hallway. There is tactile strips for warm people, for stairs. And this is a grooming room that the guide dog owners can use to groom the dogs.
And you wouldn't get this in mainstream hotels, would you?
No, we provide bowls for the dog food and for water. Also, we have dog beds and fleece if they don't wish to bring their own.
And rather crucially for the guide dogs, there's an area for them to relieve themselves known as the spending area.
Yes, this is used mainly in the evenings because the guide dog owners can open the door and let the dog out there free, knowing it's safe, where mainstream hotels just don't have these facilities available to them.
OK, Carol, so can I get you some tea or coffee?
I would like tea, please, Karen, and brown toast.
Tea and some brown toast.
I'm in the dining room and we've just had breakfast, and I've run into a lady called Carol.
I come here on my own because it's a very welcoming place.
What do you like about this place, Carol?
Well, the staff are very nice. You know, they're used to dealing with visually impaired people, so they're always helpful. And they're very friendly as well. It's not just a job, they're kind and friendly to you.
Betty, there's your ginger beer, my love.
Thank
and
you.
Pour a cup of tea just in front of you.
Okay.
Thank you, Nina.
Cheers.
Now, you're a regular visitor to this hotel. Tell me why you come.
One reason is by coming here, it's a break for me and it gives Mum a little break. Secondly, I feel it's a good thing that where possible, blind and sighted can mix together.
One man who's in a unique position to understand the impact a takeover can have is Andrew Wilson. Andrew's been managing the Windermere Manor Hotel for 5 years now. And that hotel, which was originally run by RNIB, has been taken over by Starboard Hotels. And you welcome the takeover here, don't you, Andrew?
Absolutely. I think it's not just about the money, it's about the standards, the hospitality delivery, but also about looking after the needs of our guests, and that includes our guests that are visually impaired.
You've seen the impact of the takeover at your hotel. What changes have been made?
Very little, to be perfectly honest, apart from, one, there's a secure future. Two, they're looking forward to actually rolling some of the ideas out to other hotels across the group, which will give our blind and partially sighted guests bigger choice across the UK.
There were concerns among blind and partially sighted people when they heard that Clifton and your hotel were up for sale. Do you understand those concerns?
Totally and utterly. A lot of people were devastated because a lot of our guests that are blind and partially sighted see these hotels as a safe haven for them. So a lot of them were really concerned that that was the end of their leisure life and that they weren't going to be able to go on holiday again.
One of the things that Starboard have committed to is transferring the learning from this hotel and Windermere to their other 18 hotels. How confident are you that they'll be able to achieve that?
We have a VI user group, an advisory group within the hotels, and we've asked them to come up with the top 8/10 points that would be the easy wins, so things that would make the other hotels VI friendly immediately. They'll never replicate the Clifton and the Windermere Manor because these have obviously been built up over the years. However, there are things that can be done that will make life so much simpler and so much easier for our blind and partially sighted guests.
Over to our right, the gardens extend down to the bottom, almost touching the beach. You just go out the gate at the bottom of the gardens, past the pavilion, over the railway bridge, onto the beach.
That's Kerry-Ann Barnes, who's the operations director. You're a family-run business. What's in it for you as a commercial operator in running a hotel like this and the Windermere Manor?
It's not just about visually impaired facilities. We are a commercial organisation. This is just one segment of the business. But with the ageing population, it's an important segment of the business which is going to increase and grow. So we can't provide the full range of services across the portfolio, but you can have empathy and understanding to make that journey better.
A lot of the visually impaired people I've spoken to over the last couple of days have said, oh no, I don't go to mainstream hotels anymore because, they're too difficult. What could the sector learn?
It's all about people and it's all about service, and that's old-fashioned hospitality and hoteliers, really. So we can put some of those things in place. It's not difficult.
I'm wondering how the visually impaired guests feel about staying in a specialist hotel like this one. Isn't it just segregation? Andrew, who's just had his dinner in the restaurant, and Betty in the bar think definitely not.
Yes, it's a different experience. It's definitely got that more specialist feel to it. But then with a mainstream hotel, you're constantly worried, can you cope? That barrier's removed here.
Each to his own, and sometimes you just want to be able to relax and know that the people are looking out for you, and also you can meet other visually impaired people. And I have had good conversations with sighted people too. Some people like mainstream and some people like specialised.
My name is Norina and I'm totally blind, and I have a guide dog called Willow, and I've been coming to the Clifton Hotel for over 20 odd years, about a year after when it first opened, when it was owned by guide dogs.
How did you feel when you heard that the hotel was up for sale?
I have got to say, very concerned, very worried, wondering, would we be able to come down here again? And I know that they're going to make changes, that changes have got to be made. But, I got an email last week confirming that it was takeover was going to be as from, I believe, today. And it was good news. I don't feel as though you're going into, say, a home for blind and partially sighted people. You don't get that kind of feeling. To me, it is just like an ordinary hotel. It's just that it caters for visually impaired and blind guests.
Norina ending Tom Walker's report. And in that report, we heard some pretty enthusiastic backing for the special hotel idea. It's not everybody's cup of tea, though. I suppose, by definition, if people have gone there, they probably like the idea. But we do know that other people don't like them as much. We remain interested in your views on the pros and cons of special holiday provision. The truth is that holidays can be quite stressful for us. Coping with what life throws at us depends, particularly if you're visually impaired, on familiarity, knowing where stuff is, being able to put your hand on things quickly, knowing your surroundings. On holiday, of course, you lose all that. So we thought it would be helpful to pull together some ideas about how to minimise the aggravation of being in an unfamiliar place, supposedly enjoying yourself. Chris and Mike McMillan have been dealing with that as a visually impaired married couple for more than 40 years now, so they ought to know a thing or two about it. We've invited them to deliver a little masterclass on how they get the best out of their holidays. I spoke to them a little earlier and I asked Chris, first of all, about her take on special hotels.
I think it's a great idea, and I've been hearing about it from many friends over many years, but I've never been.
And can I ask you why you haven't been, given that you holiday together, you're both visually impaired? What put you off?
I think it was partly having other ways of having holidays, because for many years we were able to stay with family in a holiday environment.
And Mike, are you attracted to that kind of idea, or do you prefer what you might call an integrated holiday?
My concern would be that is there enough support, enough trade for visually handicapped to keep the hotels viable? If there isn't, would the concentration on helping VI disappear?
So are there criteria that you would look for, things that you would check in advance?
Yes, we always make sure that the guide dog contingent have their spend pen. We've always gone to cities where somebody lives or is involved in, so they know what the city has got to offer. And then we know what each other might like to go and do. and whoever lives most locally organises it all. So it's a team effort. Sort of half a dozen people usually know the city concerned.
Because I guess that's the point. You can waste an awful lot of time when you get somewhere, can't you? Actually finding out really basic things like public transport, for instance.
Yes. When we go on holiday together, I spend a lot of time organising the public transport side of things because that's my thing. It's easier now you've got the internet, but for those who haven't got the internet, it must be a real headache because you've got to ring up the national coach people or the railways, and you've got to go and explain what it is you want to do and all that sort of thing. I can't actually remember how I did it. I must have got hold of lots of paper copies and pored over them for hours, but I'm lucky I've got enough sight to do that.
I said at the beginning, one of the big problems was we are so used to having familiar surroundings and knowing where stuff is, and that's something you lose when you go on holiday. You're going to be at a strange place for a short time. Have you got methods of kind of familiarising yourself with an area?
I found that going to a hotel, the first important matters are access. And I don't mean physical access. I mean, in the case of, are there lifts? Do they take you to the floor? Where's the emergency exit? And is there a concierge or whatever if you're stuck? So some sort of receptionist is a boon. But if you just walk in and it just has arrows, which you may or may not be able to read, that's a little unfriendly.
Some of the other things that you might do, I mean, I've heard people say, for example, put an elastic band on your hotel door. I mean, when you walk down a hotel corridor, it's featureless, isn't it? You know, what do you do? Do you count the steps?
Well, by speaking to the hotel management before you book and explaining you'd like somewhere that's accessible, I think it's an idea to ask for either the room next to the lift or at the far end of the corridor, something which is distinctive. Therefore, you can find that much more readily than somewhere that's third corridor along and halfway down on the left-hand side.
I physically count door numbers when I'm in the hotels, and I do it very slowly, and once I've done it once or twice, and I've noted how many doors I have to go through and little things like that. But I'm lucky I've got enough sight to do all this sort of thing. I'm a bit haphazard. I probably would forget the elastic band, and of course I have heard that the elastic bands get removed by helpful staff.
Of course, some people would argue, I don't want to do anything special. I go in, I adapt as I go along, I will take what I find and I'll deal with it. Do you understand that kind of cavalier attitude?
Yes, I do. I'm just a little bit too anxious to be doing that.
And me.
So and also, if you're with a group of friends, you're looking out for them as well and helping them.
I said that, you know, you got the problem of actually not having stuff around you. Forgetting what, leaving what behind is a recipe for a holiday ruined.
Oh, no. The BBC will be pleased to hear this. You should take a radio with you. If you're a great listener to the radio, you may find the hotel has a facility on the television for sound channels, but not always. A little radio you can put in your pocket would be a worthwhile investment.
I never go anywhere without low vision aids, of which I have several. So the monocular would always be with me, and at least one hand lens. Because we both have visual impairments, I might actually take two low vision aids so that we can look at different things together. But when you've got public transport, you're a bit limited as how much you can carry.
It is useful when you're out in the street. If you're wandering around a bit and getting some fresh air, you want to see where you are. And if you've got some sort of guide map and it gives you the name of a street, with a monocular you can find where you are. And without that, asking somebody else, you usually find that it's a visitor and they don't know.
So one final tip each that you think is perhaps something that you should definitely do or make sure is done.
You take the essentials, but then you find you can only carry the essentials for two people. You'd take small hand lenses, not large ones, for instance. You'd both take your sun spectacles, but you wouldn't take a second pair.
Just finally, if people have been listening recently to the programme, you'll know that Cheryl Gabriel, who recently produced her final programme, left us a parting gift. She's calling it Cheryl's List. Indeed, it's the kind of things, the benefits that are out there which are particularly helpful and which often people don't know about. We're inviting contributors and guests to add to that list as they go along. Would you like to nominate something each? Mike?
Right. We went to Beamish a couple of years ago, and they, in common with many other places now, do offer concessionary tickets. So don't be shy when you get to the ticket barrier or the machine. Explain that one or both of you are visually handicapped or one's a guide, and you will get a reduction, and it's well worth doing.
And Chris, what about you?
Mine is to visit your local library and find out what concessions are available for the visually impaired. Mine included having my card stamped discreetly so that the staff knew to stamp my book with an extra large stamp or write in large clear letters. They also do issue audiobooks on my local council system for free rather than paying the higher charges.
So they would be particularly for visually impaired people?
Yes.
And if I can slip in a supplementary, but a very important one, if you're newly blind, visually handicapped, ask your bank about large print statements. They're also available in Braille.
Mike and Chris McMillan, thanks very much. Enjoy your next holiday and take all your own advice. That's it for today. We welcome your views on anything in the programme. You can call our action line for 24 hours after it finishes on 0800 044 044. If you'd like us to be able to call you back, do leave us a contact number. You can also email intouch@bbc.co.uk, or you can click on Contact Us on our website, from where you can also download tonight's and other editions of In Touch. From me, Peter Wight, producer Kevin Corr and the team. Goodbye.